Don't you guys think Kawhi's a pretty big part of the Clippers' problems, though? Don't you feel like they lack
As far as
John,
what, not playing?
are you saying what are they lacking?
a vocal leader?
So you're blaming Kawhi for not being the vocal leader? You think that's a problem?
One of the Clippers' biggest issues is not just that they've regressed defensively. They have a lot of really slow wings that can't guard in space, but they're not a connected team. They don't communicate. And for a team that wants to play smaller in the playoffs with these 6'7" to 6'9" wings, you need to be connected. And there's just a lack of cohesion here, not just defensively, but in the fourth quarter, we've seen the hierarchy of which star is going to take over. That's been off whack over the last couple of weeks.
But you said that you asked us isn't Kawhi? Would you say Kawhi is one of the main problems? So I'm trying to pinpoint what you mean by that. You're talking. So you said vocal leader. Is that what you have a problem with Kawhi not being a vocal enough leader?
Also, teammates don't know when Kawhi's going to play too. That's another concern with the organization over the last 2 years.
Justin, did I just ask him a direct question? This man is a
No.
politician with it. Is he not a politician with it? I asked him a direct question, and he answered a completely different question.
John never answers the question.
Is your problem with Kawhi Leonard that he is not a vocal enough leader? It's yes or no.
Partially.
Partially. What's the other problem with so the other problem is he doesn't play enough? All right, so let's get down to it, right? Doesn't play enough. John, he's coming off a torn ACL. You were the one saying to me when I was going off on Kevin Durant for gassing out. Okay? You were coming at me and saying the body can't handle that. So you can't have it both ways. Now you're blaming Kawhi Leonard, who's coming off a torn ACL. John, which one is worse, torn ACL or a little tired? I think we all know the answer to that question. So you can't come and blame Kawhi now for missing time. Both of those major injuries he has had were freak accidents that could happen to anybody. They weren't like, he was just running non-contact, boom. The Zubac injury and not Zubac, I'm sorry. Zaza Pachulia, whatever his name is. And the Joe Ingles one, right? Joe Ingles when they bumped right into his thigh or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So what? So what do you expect from Kawhi for this season? Like he's played basically all of January. He's played all of February. He played a majority of December, I'm pretty sure. So what do you? He's just missing the back-to-backs.
I don't have a problem with Kawhi missing back-to-backs with a torn ACL. I have a problem with Kawhi's lack of leadership. When you look at
it, no, you don't.
Some people lead by example. It's not leading. It always happens to be the loudest guy in the room.
Justin, he's not leading by example. This Clippers team lacks a leader.
He's not on the floor right now, but when he is on the floor, does he produce?
Yeah, but they're losing games because they're not playing as a team. Who is that falling?
Who's the head coach then?
Tyronn Lue, and I'm going to quote Tyronn in a second, believe me. The problem with the Clippers is that when Kawhi's won championships, he's had a established leadership structure. And San Antonio, Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, and then veterans like Patty Mills that had been there for years. In Toronto, he goes and he has Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. Two guards are almost tailor-made to play off of Kawhi. Elite defenders in the guard
spot. A team that was called the Baby Dinosaurs and was owned by LeBron for years.
So LeBron leaves the conference, and that Toronto team keeps the role players in Lowry and VanVleet, who both develop, and they kind of feel like a glove off of Kawhi.
And in that give Kawhi any of that credit.
When they won 58 games, Kawhi missed 42. I think it was 24 of them, not 42, but he sat out 20 plus. And they were, I think, an 18-win team that only 6 losses without him because Pascal Siakam developed. And that team had an identity off of Kawhi, right? They had a high-level coach, Nick Nurse, who had been in the organization the last couple of years. The Raptors had the right leadership structure in place with Kyle Lowry so that they could welcome Kawhi in. When the Clippers acquired Kawhi with Doc Rivers, probably one of the biggest choke artists we've ever seen in the postseason, they didn't have that stable leadership structure that has a high enough ceiling. They had a high floor, Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell, sure, but in the playoff crucible, that organization never actually had that foundation firm enough to actually maximize Kawhi Leonard and have the necessary leadership in place to make sure he could lead you as the best player to a championship in LA.
So I don't see how any of this is Kawhi's fault.
That's what I'm saying. But all you're explaining is stuff. Unless you're just flat out saying Kawhi Leonard, you need to be a vocal leader. All your gripes need to be with the front office or the head coach, not Kawhi, because we know what Kawhi is. You brought Kawhi in knowing what Kawhi was. He is not a vocal guy. He leads by his play. And to remind you, basically played all of December. All right. Played all of January, balled out in freaking January, 54% from the field, 45% from 3-point line, 91% from 92% from the free throw line, 28 points, 2 steals a game. He played majority of February. It was a more shorter month. He's playing these games now. Like, so your gripes and problems are not with Kawhi. I don't know what your like. Paul George should step up more. I don't like Paul George basically saying he can't be a number one guy. I don't like that. You can think that all you want. Don't say it out loud to the public. I don't like that.
You know what I do find very interesting? You know, we're talking about Kawhi with the back-to-backs, and I don't know if it was Paul George talking on JJ Redick's podcast, but him mentioning how back when he was playing in Indiana, at least in that time in the NBA, it was practice hard, go to play your game. Practice hard, play your game. Practice hard, play your game. And then occasionally he'll have the day off. And he said he felt that was more beneficial for his body. And now all this load management is making basketball players weaker. And it's just, his opinion.
That's what Paul George
he has
believes?
a teammate that does that.
That's what Paul George believes, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
If that's what Paul George believes, then I mean, he has a full right to say when he plays and doesn't play too. Like, if he feels ready enough to play, you can play then. I mean, you can have a problem. Again, why are we airing out dirty laundry? That's a conversation not to be had on a podcast for the world to see. That's a conversation, if you don't like that, for you and your co-star Kawhi Leonard to have a conversation behind closed doors. That's where that conversation needs to be had, not in front of the public. I don't like that, because now I'm going to say this. If the Clippers don't get it done, it's not Kawhi's fault, and I'll die on that hill. Paul George, your ass might be out of LA. I think Kawhi got sold a bag of BS by Paul George to get him to LA. And then I think Paul George sold him another bag of BS to get Russell Westbrook to LA. And this is just ridiculous. I feel bad for Kawhi at this point.